Hey folks, welcome back. So this week we are kind of doing the part 2 of last week's video. We ended up with a whole lot of video footage from that week, so I decided to split it into 2 parts. So we've got several different things that we're going to be working on this week, and the first of which is to go down to old Rusty, the Land Cruiser, and we're going to do a little bit of work on that. I finally got some new parts in that has to do with the kind of ignition sort of stuff, and we got those laying right over there. So I know I say this after, every time I replace something in here, but hopefully this will fix whatever it is that isn't working and maybe it'll start. All right, so before we get started on today's work, I need to catch you up from yesterday. So I thought I had everything I needed to get the ignition stuff switched out and hopefully give old Rusty here another go at getting it started and running. However, I got sent the wrong points, so they are not for this make and model. So I now have the right ones coming, so hopefully those will be here maybe next week. But either way, we're on hold again with this until I get the right ones sent to me. So today we are going to go back to working on the manure spreader, our century-old manure spreader there, and we're going to work on trying to mill out those wooden beams that we need to span between our kind of side rails. So I could see something moving around here in the field on the other side of the creek from the mill house. At first I thought it was a groundhog. Then I looked through some binoculars, and it was actually a big old snapping turtle walking around in the field over here beside the creek. He's a pretty good sized fella too. He's probably a good, 12 inches wide and maybe 14, 16 inches long. So that's a nice sized fella right there. All right, well, we got all of our beams cut over here. Now this does not include any of the thin stuff that we'll need for sideboards and stuff like that. We are not gonna worry about that for the time being. We're just trying to get this together and sort of ish functional to be able to move it around. Now the first one that we need to put on is this very front one that our front wheels go through and kind of connects these front pieces across through here. However, in order to do that, we need to get these nuts off from these 2 bolts so that we can drill some holes in the beam and then run these up through there. So I've got a torch over here. We're going to try heating these things up a little bit, and hopefully we'll be able to get those nuts off. Alrighty, so today we are gonna see if we can't get this thing moved out of here and maybe kind of do a functions check on it to make sure that all of this stuff over here is working properly. Now, before we can move this, we need to pull a few things off from here because like these rollers here, the wheels that are in here are not really connected into these bars. So if these separate at all, we're gonna start losing some of these. So I wanna get these out of here. And we got some other miscellaneous parts kind of laying around down here as well. So we need to get all that stuff picked up. And then once we get that done, we'll see if we can't get this thing moved. Alrighty folks, so it has been at least an hour, probably closer to 2 hours since you saw me moving this over closer to the mill house. And it's in a bit better spot to work on it. The ground isn't all tore up underneath there, so it makes it slightly harder to lose stuff. You know, you don't drop something and it gets buried in the dirt or something like that real quick. So I've spent the last little bit here just kind of going over the whole thing, trying to figure out how everything works on it and see what things are supposed to move, what things aren't supposed to move, what things are supposed to move and aren't moving, you know, all that kind of good stuff. And I've diagnosed a couple things on here that are not moving that should be, so I've doused those with a whole bunch of penetrating oil, and we're just gonna let those set for a while because, you know, if you can just let that get in there, really soak into all the parts, it should make it easier here in another day or two when we come back to this and try getting things to move. So since we're done with the spreader for the time being, we're gonna hop back on the tractor and we are gonna make one more pass over the old barn site here with that to try and turn up any sort of boards or metal or anything like that that is buried underneath the surface. It's dried out a good bit over the last few days, so hopefully that should turn over pretty well. And then we can do one last pass through there, hopefully get anything out of there that we don't want, and then we can smooth it back over and be done with that. Alrighty folks, that is going to be it for this week's video. Next week, hopefully we should get in our correct parts for the Land Cruiser, and maybe we can finally get that thing started. I don't know, we'll see. And then also we should be getting around doing some burning, getting rid of some of that old rotten barnwood from that cleanup project, start working on getting rid of some of that stuff. And I think those are the only things that I can think of right offhand that we'll be working on, but I don't know, we'll see. So anywho, that's it for this week's video. As always, I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you next time.